Hi everyone, Bandanner here. I hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you've all had a great week. It is Friday and it is time for this week's dev blog from the Broken Arrow team. Today we're getting a look at the new US Airborne Spec. As ever, there are loads of juicy pictures for us, included with a dev blog for in the background of the video as well. So I really appreciate that from them. So they point out that this is completely brand new. This specialization is fully based on mobility at the price of resilience. You will airdrop infantry, light tanks and support from cargo planes, or lift them with helicopters, or simply use a fast road speed of your vehicles to always beat your opponents to the punch. Spreading your small but heavy hitting fire support teams will force the enemy to overinvest to deal with them, costing them precious time and resources. So now they go on to review each of the units in the categories in detail. So starting off with Recon, the first unit we're taking a look at is the Humvee RWS Remote Weapon Station. It's got a good detection range thanks to the optics of its tele-operated turret that can be armed with a minigun, an M2 heavy machine gun, or a Mark 19 automatic grenade launcher. You can upgrade it with a B-kit armor package to resist small arms fire, and of course smoke grenades to secure your retreat if you happen to bump into an enemy armoured column. The Humvee LRAS-3 is a mobile laser designation platform with an excellent optics and mobility. It comes armed with an M240 medium machine gun by default, but also has access to the M2 and Mark 19, as well as smoke and armour upgrades, and also the B-kit armour and smoke. Now I'm not certain, but that might be a typo, otherwise it's getting two different armor upgrades. Next up are the Army Snipers. They come in groups of 3 with very good optics and exceptional stealth, equipped with a laser designator. The main shooter can be equipped with a suppressed M2010 or an M109 anti-material. The second man is equipped with an M110 marksman rifle, and the third man provides security with an M4A1 and M203 grenade launcher. Sniper rifles ignore building cover and have a long range, so they can be used either to infiltrate enemy lines or as fire support in urban combat. Just make sure you use them at maximum range, as they won't survive long under enemy fire. Okay, moving on to some drones. So first there is the MQ-1C Grey Eagle. This is an evolution of the famous Predator drone. This high-flying drone remains slow but can carry a larger panel of weapons compared to its predecessor, with 4 pylons instead of 2, each carrying either 1 Hellfire or 2 smaller Griffin missiles with high explosive fragmentation warheads, to engage infantry specifically, and vehicles from the top, or 2 Stinger missiles to engage other aircraft. You will also gain access to the RQ-4 Global Hawk, a much larger drone with exceptionally long-range optics, able to spot enemy units without entering the range of most surface-to-air missiles. This powerful asset remains extremely vulnerable, as it carries no countermeasures at all, so expect the enemy to send a fighter to deal with the Global Hawk as soon as it is spotted. I think what they're saying is there, be ready to defend it with your own fighters, or have your own air defense ready waiting under it. Okay, now we're moving on to infantry, and of course the mainstay will be the airborne. They're the backbone of this specialization. This 8-man squad is equipped with the brand new M7 Spear rifles and M250 machine guns. These weapons are using the new 6.8 caliber and have more range and armor penetration than usual infantry weapons. They also carry the M320 grenade launchers and AT4 light anti-tank rocket launchers. In other words, they're pretty well kitted out. Next up are the Weapons Squad, an 8-man squad equipped with 2 M240L medium machine guns, 2 Javelin anti-tank missile launchers, and these squads complement the airborne squads by providing overwatch and supportive fire while the airborne attack or retreat. Next up are the M2 Browning team, a team of 4 manning 2 heavy machine guns. They are perfect to shred enemy infantry or light vehicles crossing into open areas, forcing the enemy to unlock the situation with either artillery or some other fire support. And then of course there will be the Mark 19 team, equivalent to the Browning team, but with the Mark 19 automatic grenade launchers. They are more efficient against ground targets but cannot engage helicopters. And then the venerable TOW team, another 4-man team, this time equipped with the TOW anti-tank guided missile launcher. This weapon has a long range, high armor penetration and high damage, and can be upgraded with the TOR-2B missiles, which detonate above the target and project 2 explosively formed penetrators through the roof, making any frontal armor useless. These missiles are the ultimate weapon against tanks. And finally in this section are the Stinger team, a team of 4 serving 2 short-range Stinger anti-aircraft missile launchers. Stingers have a short range, so they won't be able to engage planes unless they approach very close, but they can fire from the concealment of a forest or buildings to ambush helicopters quite efficiently. So, what about combat vehicles and ground transports? Well, the main ground transports of airborne infantry are of course Humvees, which can carry a 4-man fire team. Or they can be rolling in the newest M1301 ISV, which can carry 2 fire teams or a full 8-man squad. Both vehicles are very fast and can be equipped with an M240 medium machine gun, M2 heavy machine gun, or of course the Mark 19 automatic grenade launcher. Not to mention they can be sent back to base after dropping off their infantry to get a refund, sent forward perhaps to harass the enemy, or kept around to act as additional fire support and reposition your fire team rapidly if needed. Plenty of options in this game when it comes to your transports. So one other dedicated unit is of course the Humvee TOW, the equivalent to an infantry tow team but mounted on the roof of a Humvee, to provide mobility to this anti-tank launcher. The vehicle can be upgraded with extra armor and smoke pods. The Airborne will also get access to the M8 AGS/Thunderbolt. This is an airdroppable light tank and can be equipped with an automated fast-firing 105mm gun or upgraded to a 120mm gun as powerful as the most modern Abrams tank. The armor can be upgraded with additional ceramic plates or active protection systems. The heaviest version adds explosive reactive armor but removes the ability to be airdropped. And finally in this section is the M551 Sheridan. This is another airdroppable light tank, this time with a large but short 152mm gun, mostly useful against infantry and light vehicles. It is also possible to add the Shillelagh anti-tank missiles. On a personal note, if they're as bad as they were in real life and or in other games, then I wouldn't waste your time. They may have improved them for the sake of game balance here though. They add that it is interesting to note that this tank is light enough to be airlifted by the CH-53 King Stallion available in the USMC deck. So they're hinting that you could mix and match the Airborne and the USMC there. Okay, so what about the support tab? One of the strengths of the Airborne specialization is its ability to drop or airlift vehicles alongside the infantry to defend the landing zone. And obviously support vehicles are paramount there. So the first is the AN/TWQ-1 Avenger. This anti-aircraft unit is using the chassis of a Humvee to carry a turret containing 4 or 8 Stinger missiles. Its lightweight makes it airdroppable and airliftable by the UH-60 Blackhawks. Like all the Humvees, it is possible to upgrade it with additional armor, but it loses the ability to be airdropped in that case. Next up is a slightly more unusual unit, the Hawkeye MWS. Again on the chassis of a Humvee, but this time carrying a 105mm howitzer. You can select the loadout between high explosive or cluster munitions or rocket assisted projectiles, RAP, with more range. Next up is the MTV or Medium Tactical Vehicle. This truck can transport troops and supplies. It can be airlifted by a Chinook helicopter, but it is not airdroppable. It serves as the main workhorse of the Airborne specialization, if you decide to play it as a standard infantry brigade, that is. The truck can be upgraded with additional armor and an M240 medium machine gun, M2 heavy machine gun, or of course the Mark 19 automatic grenade launcher. Next up is a commonplace unit, the LMTV Light Medium Tactical Vehicle. This light truck transports less cargo than the MTV, but can be airdropped. It is generally useful to airdrop some supplies with your infantry to rearm them, and at least one truck to move the supplies around, as the initial landing zone might receive artillery fire. The LMTV gets the same upgrades as the MTV. The armor upgrade removes the airdroppable ability though. Next up is the Brutus. This is an MTV chassis stripped down from every possible extra weight item to make it airdroppable and equipped with an M777 155mm howitzer bolted on the back. This Mad Max style artillery truck offers medium range artillery support to the Airborne specialization with high explosive and cluster rounds. Next up is the SL AMRAAM, another MTV chassis, this time with anti-aircraft missiles mounted on it. You can choose between 4 or 6 AMRAAM radar-guided missiles dedicated to planes and missile interception, or a mix of 4 AMRAAM and 2 AIM-9 with infrared seekers able to engage helicopters. Now, it doesn't say that one's airdroppable, so I'm not sure if that one is or not. I guess it might be too heavy with all those missiles mounted on the back and the radar system? Oh well, we will see. So what about helicopters? Well, the airborne specialization represents airborne troops like the 82nd, but also air assault troops like the 101st Airborne, which are deployed using helicopters. As a result, this specialization offers a varied panel of helicopters. The first of those being the UH-60M Blackhawk, certainly one of the most, if not the most iconic US helicopter. This transport aircraft can carry 12 personnel and lift up to 4 tons of cargo, which is enough to carry a Humvee. An ISV or some other light vehicle like the IFAV, which is available to the USMC specialization. The two-door gunners can be equipped with either a simple M240 medium machine gun, or the GAU-17 miniguns, or even the GAU-21 fast-firing heavy machine guns. Next up is the AH-64 Apache, another famous attack helicopter of the US Army in its most basic version. Sturdy and well armed, it is equipped with a 30mm chain gun as well as 4 pylons, each able to carry 70 Hydra rockets, APKWS guided rockets, or Hellfire top attack anti-tank missiles. Next up is another fairly famous helicopter, the AH-64 Longbow. Very similar to the Apache, but with a radar cupola above the rotor blades, allowing this helicopter to use Hellfire Longbow missiles, which are fire and forget. It means that this helicopter can lose the line of sight of the target or be destroyed after the launch of the missile, and it will still find its target autonomously. The Longbow has been very strong in other games I've played, so I expect no different here. Next up is the CH-47 Chinook. This large helicopter with tandem rotor can lift a large number of troops and heavier vehicles up to 12.5 tons. It is also one of the fastest helicopters in the game if we exclude the tilt-rotor V-22 Osprey. Next up is another venerable helicopter, the OH-58 Kiowa. This is of course a small recon helicopter which can be equipped with a large variety of weapons on its pylons. A GAU-21 heavy machine gun, Hydra rockets, Hellfire missiles, Stinger anti-aircraft missiles, and you can also select a different loadout for each side. For instance, combine the Stinger and Hellfire missiles to have a response to both air and ground enemies. It can also be upgraded with a mast-mounted sight, increasing drastically the detection range and giving it the ability to designate targets with a laser. So this one can turn into quite a cheeky helicopter. Okay, and what about planes? Well, first up is the F-15C Eagle. This is a dedicated air superiority fighter which can carry up to 8 missiles, with the possibility to choose between the AIM-9 short-range infrared, AIM-7 semi-active radar-guided, or the AIM-120 AMRAAM with more range and autonomous terminal guidance. Contrary to most planes, the emplacement for the external fuel tanks is independent from the missile emplacement, allowing to freely increase the autonomy without reducing the payload. Next up is the mighty F-15E Strike Eagle. The dual-seater version of the F-15C, it might look like a fighter, but don't be fooled by appearances, it's a bomb truck. The plane retains the ability to carry 4 air-to-air missiles, but is mostly dedicated to ground attack with an impressive payload of 7 2,000-pound bombs or 18 cluster bombs. It can also be equipped with a laser designation pod to guide its own smart bombs. And of course, this set wouldn't be complete without the F-15EX Eagle II. The newest version of the plane regroups the capabilities of the C and E versions in a single modernized plane. It can do basically anything twice. For instance, carry up to 14,000 pounds of bombs in addition to 8 air-to-air missiles. You can use it to launch JSAM cruise missiles, carry AGM-88 anti-radiation missiles, or pile up the missile over missile on every pylon until you reach the ultimate spam ram loadout with 20 AMRAAM missiles. I mean, it's going to be a beast of a jet, but I also feel like it's going to be really, really expensive. Obviously, this specialization is going to need transport, and first up is the C-17 Globemaster. This strategic airlifter is capable of dropping up to 75 tons of supplies, vehicles, and 100 paratroopers, so you can drop a pair of Sheridans, half a dozen Humvees of various types, some supplies, and an LMTV plus several platoons of infantry in a single drop. Just don't do that in a contested airspace, or your glorious airdrop might transform into a gigantic piñata for your opponents. That is a lovely way to put it. I appreciate some of the little anecdotes they put in this. And if that wasn't enough, there is of course the C-130J-30 Hercules, a smaller, slower propeller plane that transports less payload but has the advantage of airdropping from a lower altitude, which grants it a higher survivability against ground-based air defense, but makes it more vulnerable to fighter interception. The J-30 version is a bit larger than the KC-130 of the Marines, allowing it to transport a few extra tons of equipment, but it is not armed at all. And then of course the tasty treat that everybody has been waiting for, the B-1B Lancer. There where the B-1B Lancer has passed, the grass will never grow again. This strategic bomber can drop an impressive quantity of bombs of various types. 84 Snake-Eye Dumb Bombs or 30 cluster bombs dropped from a low altitude, 24 Mark 84 2,000-pound bombs, 12 JSOR cluster smart bombs, 8 big ALCM or 24 smaller JSAM cruise missiles, and finally the B-61 nuclear bomb. I imagine it's going to cost a hell of a lot if you strap the nuclear bomb to it. And then what surprises me here is they've got another section which goes into strategies for this specialization. I think that's a really nice addition to this dev blog. So they say on its own, the airborne specialization offers everything you need to gain air superiority, airdrop troops and vehicles on key positions of the battlefield, and establish a layered defense around it. You can also use multiple Humvees to create highly mobile motorized hordes rushing through undefended approaches, forcing the enemy to overspend to deal with all these light vehicles, wreaking havoc in their back line. But in Broken Arrow, specializations always work in pairs. Combining it with the armored spec allows you to gain time with your airborne troops, while heavy tanks or artillery are on their way to catch your enemy pants down in the middle of an assault against your entrenched paratroopers. Combining it with the Marines, on the other hand, allows you to maximize the amount of planes and helicopters you can bring to have a rapid answer to every situation. You can also airdrop even more support vehicles, as the LAV-25 family of vehicles is airdroppable and available to you. Gaining air superiority is very important. A team which is not contesting the airspace of all must prepare to live under the bombs and constant enemy airdrops. The best moment to perform an airdrop is at the beginning of the battle, before the thick surface-to-air missile defense system is established. But your opponents know that too. So this will also be a moment where you have a high chance to meet enemy fighters, and your transport plane will have zero chance to reach the drop zone alive if there are enemy fighters and you don't have your own to take them out. So that means that if both teams are trying to aggressively gain air superiority to perform their airdrops at the start of the match, you can just have a massive air battle involving dozens of aircraft. But even if you don't plan to airdrop troops or use helicopters, it is recommended to call in at least one fighter to check how much the opposing team has invested into aircraft. If they didn't call in a single plane, this is a golden occasion to make that airdrop with zero risk. If they called in an undefended cargo plane, well, that's a lot of free points for you, and if you are outnumbered and cannot call in more fighters, you can call in surface-to-air missiles and try to bait the enemy fighters to follow your plane into a trap. Losing air superiority at the beginning of the match is also not the end of the world, as long as you make sure that your opponents didn't gain it for free. Remember, they have gained the possibility to airdrop troops in that situation and use helicopters freely for a few minutes while preventing you from doing so. But their planes will have to refuel at some point, and constantly keeping 10 fighters in the air is a waste of resources, so you will have the opportunity to contest the airspace again after a few minutes. And that's everything for this week's devblog. They say see you next week for another devblog presenting a new Russian specialization. Once again, I think it's a really good devblog. It's given us a lot of detail on the airborne specialization. I really like the little sort of strategy bit at the end. Yes, some of it's very common sense, I guess, for this specialization, but it's nice that they added it in there anyway. Thank you everyone for joining me. Have a great weekend, and I will see you all soon.